Okay.
What page are we on?
Okay, don't forget I'm going to be doing this class. If you have questions, write them down. Extra books in the back box in the back if you want to look in. Okay? So please try not to interrupt because we're recording this for a podcast. We're trying to record this for a podcast, except for this arm is just in the way because I don't want to. Okay, fine. How's that? That's better. Okay, yeah? Okay? We're going to be on page 19.
Well, 8.
Okay, this is Kabbalah 101. We're going to be getting on page 19. We spoke about the 5 universes and the 5 levels of souls. But first I'm going to begin with a famous parable of the Baal Shem Tov. I love to speak about parables of the Baal Shem Tov and the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. He was the master Kabbalist. I think we even touched about it last week when we spoke about the tradition of Kabbalistic wisdom. Yes, it originated way early from Avram Avinu, who wrote the Book of Formation. And, of course, it was passed down in secret circles, secret wisdom, the wisdom of the universe. And finally, it was given permission to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, where he could actually write it down. So he was actually able to compose the Zohar, and he revealed the secrets of the Torah. He was given permission. Of course, he wrote it down in a way that the Zohar, if you read the Zohar as it is, it's a pretty closed book. It's very hard to go ahead and decipher. And so then many, many years later came by, and there have been other people who have also written books on Kabbalah, in terms of the tradition, but in general, theoretical Kabbalah was still a mystery, hard to understand. And then came the Ari, the 16th century Kabbalist. And the Ari, he was able to take the Zohar, which was a closed book, and make it into an open book that people can understand. Okay? Now, then came the Baal Shem Tov, hundreds of years after that. So the way that it was explained to me was that picture, there's a village, there's a town, and somebody comes to this town, a very wise man visits this village, and he sits everybody down, and everybody's sitting in a circle, and he describes a bird, a very magical, mystical bird that has a golden head and silver wings, and this kind of features, and it does this kind of things, and it does wondrous things and sings wondrous tunes. You can listen to this bird, and all your problems melt away, right? And everybody's, wow, amazing, awesome. This is the bird. We talk about the bird. You could talk about the bird a lot. And then, but they don't really know much about this bird, but there's been talk about a bird. And then comes someone else, and he says, well, it's not a literal bird. You have to understand, this is what the golden head means, and this is what the silver wings mean, and this is what this, and this is what this. And he gets into, what does it mean? What are all these things mean? So in other words, okay, the bird now has a little bit of meaning. Okay? So they say that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he's the one who came to the village and spoke about the bird. Okay? Very hard to touch his writings. And then came the Arizal, and he was able to explain the bird. That's great. Awesome. Now we know something more about the bird. We have some kind of grasp. But then there's the Baal Shem Tov who comes and he brings the bird to the people. Okay? So that's how things are just brought down in a way that it can be grasped through the Torah of the Baal Shem. So I'm beginning with this parable. There was once a king, and the king, with mystical arts, magic and sorcery, he built a palace, and he built around this palace, he built a huge wall around the palace, all with mystical arts and sorcery. And then on top of the wall, he put soldiers. And then on the other side of the wall, he built another wall. And then he built another wall, a series of walls within walls, surrounding his whole palace. And then what happens, he put soldiers on each one of the top of the walls. And in between the walls, he put ferocious creatures, dangerous animals, in between each one of the walls. And then when he did that, then he said he made a call to the entire kingdom. Whoever wants to come and visit the king can come. Right? So of course people are going to come. Right? You have a chance, and you make it to here, you make it to the king, you make it here. You'll be, rich beyond your wildest dreams. Any one of your requests will be answered. So people, of course, are going to attempt, and they go and they see the wall. Okay, they scale the wall. And then they fight the soldiers on top of that wall, and it's a fierce fight. And then finally they get down to the other place to get to the other wall. And of course they're attacked by lions and alligators and chihuahuas. Okay, the chihuahuas and the killer rabbits. You got to watch out for the killer rabbits too. Okay, vile creature. Okay, fangs. Okay, so he's fighting the animals. He gets to another wall. More soldiers. The king also put, after a guy would scale a wall, he also put men around who would come out with jewels and say, "Hey, you scaled this wall, mazel tov, right? Mazel tov, right?" And he would give the guy jewels and diamonds and gold, and the guy would be like loaded. And so, he'd scale the next wall, he'd fight the animals, a guy would come out, bing, and here with the guy, almost like a weird computer game, right? And he'd come out and he'd give you all these kind of things, and some people after like 2 walls, the guy would go, I'm rich. They'd go home. But some people would continue fighting. Most of the soldiers would fight one wall after the other wall, the animals. But there was one guy who didn't give up, right? Most of them gave up and went home. The fighting is too hard, too much. But one person didn't give up. Who was the person who didn't give up? The son of the king. The son of the king, he's fighting the soldiers because, don't forget, each wall, the soldiers were more fierce than the ones before. And he's finally at a point where he's up to a state of being exhausted, and he just screams, "Abba, Father. Abba!" And he screams, "Father! Father!" Because he just wants to be with his father. And then the king in his palace, he hears his son's pathetic cries. And all of a sudden, all of the walls, all of the soldiers, all of the animals are gone. And the son suddenly finds himself right in the palace court, right before the king, his father, and the entire court right there. Everything is just gone. Now, we get to find out, what does that mean? Okay? So we're talked about the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum is the contraction. The contraction, how God withdrew himself into outside, and he left what we call, in the conceptual framework, a sphere. And then within that sphere, he drew down what we call the ray, or the line, or the kav in Hebrew. He drew down this ray, and when he drew down this ray into this sphere, right, the ray penetrated in a way that every time it went in, it created more and more spheres inside of spheres, inside of spheres, inside of spheres. Right? This is the stage that God made for us to make a creation in, that the creation will be inside. Okay? And so, with each one of these spheres inside of spheres, the line is drawn down, the line gets dressed more and more. The line itself gets dressed more and more, and that we have the page here. If you look at the page back in page 16. So if you look at page 16 here, this diagram here, so you'll have what we have, the middle line here, that comes right from the ore of the Ein Sof, that is coming down into the circle, into the sphere. But of course, it's dressed in a lower level, and then as it penetrates more, it's dressed again. As it penetrates more, it's dressed and dressed and dressed. With each and every deeper circle, this line gets another layer in it. Okay? Another layer. Now, we have to know, just to cut to the chase here, okay? And I've discussed this before, and it's so important, okay? The tzimtzum, according to most commentaries, is not literal. This contraction of God's light is not literal, okay? which means what? Right? That in many ways, it's an illusion. But yet, we are experiencing it. Okay? We are somehow involved right now in some kind of experience where we're experiencing ourselves as being different entities walking around this world doing who knows what. Okay? But bottom line, God hides himself each and every time with each and every world till finally our world where we're in the darkest place. So when you look at the line, the top part of this, if we draw the line, right, inside of lines, right, the part of the line that is closest here is closer to God, and this point is the farthest away from God. Okay? Here you have higher, and here you have lower. Okay? And basically all of Kabbalah deals with the line and what goes on inside the line. Okay? We don't deal with the spheres. Okay? That's for way later. Okay?
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So in discussing that, the way that the light comes down, it gets more contracted and more darker, and we have what we call the four worlds that we talked about last time. And you got to know this because this is your basic Kabbalistic jargon. Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asira that I spoke about last week on page 18. That Atzilut, all light. Bria is mostly light and a little bit of darkness. Yetzira, it gets darker, it's half-half. And Asiyah, finally, all darkness and complete concealment. So basically it goes from a place of the light is getting more and more concealed. Okay? Okay, so now we can talk about page 19. Okay? So page 19 here, we have this great chart which basically helps us a lot to navigate. As I tell you, theoretic Kabbalah is a map. Okay? But you need to have the map because when you have a map, then we can get into understanding things and you can actually bring it to a place where it actually becomes practical. Okay? So as I have here on top, you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Okay? So here, what we've discussed on the far left side of the page, the contraction. So you'll have on that column down there, basically all of the characters that we've talked about in the play so far. The Or of the Ein Sof, which is the light of the infinite. And beneath that, then we have the vacated space. Then you'll have the Kav, the ray. And then you'll have the middle point. Okay? But now, to put this and translate this into names, okay, is just to the right of that. What we call the tetragrammaton. We call it God's causal relationship with his creation. And this is also really the most dynamic idea that I speak about later when we say that man was created in God's image. There's lots to say about it. And this is the real simple image that we were created in when we think about it. Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, right? Yud is the head. He is your two arms. Your torso is a Vav. And your two legs is another He. Almost kind of looks like that, right? But it's much, much deeper. Okay? As we're going to see. So we always have to know the correlation of Yud Kei Vav Kei to the worlds, which is the next one, the next column, the universes, which is, we'll call it the external dimension of God's relationship. These are the dimensions that God makes that we have the ability to travel on, to travel through when we go into our meditative states. And actually, really, if you really want to know, our Tfilat Shacharit is based on this. Okay, you'd think you wouldn't know it, but I'm going to share it with you. The morning prayers, really all prayers, are based on this, believe it or not. Okay? That really, when we start in the morning prayer, we're starting on the bottom place of Asiyah. That corresponds to the first part of our prayers, which has to do with blessings that we say on very physical things, like Malbish Harumim, who clothes the naked, right? Pokech Ivrim, gives sight to the blind. All physical things. Shasali Kol Tzarki, who's given me, sorry, 1 second. Okay. Shasali kol sarki, we say, is who's given me all my needs. What does that mean? Given me all my needs? We usually the simple understanding is shoes when we say that. You know that? Shoes. Thank God I have shoes. Right? Very physical things. That's the first thing in the morning. And also how our bodies work, right? How does it go? Now, Rofei kol basar mafli lasos, right? The bathroom prayer. And then you get to a different part of the prayer, Olam Yetzira, formation, something from something. Olam Yetzira, we say that's the world of the angels. And in theirs, we do the exact same thing that the angels are doing in the morning prayers. We say songs of praise. We say King David's prayers, Psalms. Read a lot of those. And then we get to the next part in Tefillah, Bria. When we say the Shema, that's the world of Bria we're in. And then finally, when you get to Atzilut, which is the highest, we don't deal with Adam Kadmon, okay? But we're dealing with Atzilut, which means nearness. So when we deal with Atzilut, that's when we're in the silent prayer. So even, don't think that you're not practicing Kabbalah if you're doing the normal Orthodox prayer service, doing all those 4 levels. And you have to really get yourself into the state of Atzilut when you're there. That's a whole nother training, that's a whole nother book, okay? But the idea really here is to simply put, this actually has practical applications in our daily prayers. That we go from these 4 worlds. You're starting from here, you're going to Yetzirah, and you're going from Yetzirah to Bria, and Bria to Atzilut. Okay? And then you'll see, if you follow it closely, the prayers after, the morning prayers, after your silent prayer, you do other prayers, which basically you go back down. Basically, your prayer service, you go up, and then you go back down. The whole thing. Okay? Okay, so then we have to understand, that's the outside, those are the names of the 4 worlds. Asiya, Yetzirah, Bria, and Atzilut. Atzilut being the most closest to God. Okay? And now we'll have the 5 levels of soul, which we didn't discuss last time. Okay? The 5 levels of soul. Interesting, I didn't bring it down here. Maybe I did. Interesting. Okay, the 5 levels of soul have names also. You know, one of the greatest things, it seems to wake everybody up, that if you go and ask a, Eskimo how many names for snow, they have 25 to 30 names for snow.
Really?
Uh-huh. Right? If you go to Hawaiian, he won't be able to tell you much. But if you go to an Eskimo, because they live in it, this is some super chunk, double chunk, this is a venti, this is a, right? Right, grande, right? This we use for this we use for that. You want to write a report on snow, you go to the Eskimo, he'll tell you all about it, you can make a doctorate on snow. Okay? Right? The idea really is if you go to any other culture, how many names for soul do they have? 2, maybe. 2. And what we talk about is we have 5 names that really bleed into 25, that really bleed into 125 names. Like a spectrum of a rainbow, like a color spectrum. So, but let's just go simple, 5 names. So if you want to do a report on soul, you go to the Jews, okay? Because the Torah basically has a tradition, right? You don't go to the Hawaiian, okay? You go to the Jews because he'll say there's 5 names and they all represent certain different things and they'll have the whole report on it. Books, okay? So starting with the lowest, we call that nefesh. Nefesh means resting soul. That's what it really means. Shabbat vayinafash, we say it on Shabbat in the prayers. Shabbat vayinafash, nefesh, and we'll give the parable, right? The wind comes to rest in a complete vessel. Okay, the ruach, wind. Okay, I'm going to give you the mashal first, how Aryeh Kaplan describes it. The glassblower parable is the best way to understand the soul. Okay? The glassblower, as we know, what's that, right? We don't know what that is. We know what cell phones are, but we don't know what a glassblower is, right? Maybe you've seen it in a movie, or you go to that old town outside in Texas on the Sunday afternoon, or maybe the Renaissance Fair has it, okay? They take a glob, right? He takes a tube, he puts the glob in the end of the tube, he blows in it, and of course it becomes a beautiful vessel. So there's many characters in this, right, that happen. So of course you'll have the glass blower, you'll have his air, you'll have him breathing, you'll have the wind going through the glass, and then finally resting in the glob, making the vessel. Okay? So that's why these names have these names. It's really kind of bizarre when you think about it. If you go from nefesh is like when the glob is resting in the vessel, in the glob, when the air, the wind of the glass blower is resting in the vessel, that's called nefesh because it doesn't have any more place to go. The air has rested. That's called nefesh. That's the lowest part of the soul. And then there's the air that's going through the tube, ruach. Ruach means wind. Wind is moving. It's an emotion. Okay? It's moving. And then you'll have what's called neshima or neshama. Neshama means neshima, breath. It is his breath, the breath of the glass blower. Okay? Then you'll have chaya, the living essence. It's called chaya, literally. That's the glass blower before he begins to blow out. And then you'll have yechida. Yechida is uniqueness, the innermost will of the glass blower. Now this is bizarre, folks. You got to dig into this just a little bit here, okay? Because really, when you think about it, what is really going on? I was giving this class, and this dude, he woke up big time. He went, wait a minute. So you're saying you got your nefesh, and your nefesh is basically anchored through your liver and blood. And you got your ruach, that's a different part of your soul. It's basically anchored through your heart, your emotion. You have your neshama basically anchored through your brain, your mind. And then you'll have your chai and yechida, two peripheral elements of the soul which can't even be grasped in the body. But the idea really here is, if you look at the parable of the glass blower, what is it saying, obviously? What is it really saying? It's an amazing kind of idea. And the idea really here is we're always connected. There is no spot where there's any disconnect. You are blown from the highest place. Like we do say that we come from the throne of glory, T-O-G, right? And that place is that Yechida was in God's mind when he had you in mind. Okay? And every single thing you needed, your entire life and destiny, he had a specific thing in mind when he blew you. And he did blow all of us. Okay? We were all programmed from the very beginning of creation. There was a great story of the Baal Shem Tov. He's walking with one of his students. And his student, all of a sudden, he was overcome with a tremendous thirst. And he couldn't overcome it. He's, Rabbi, I'm thirsty. And they keep walking, and he goes, Rabbi, I'm thirsty. I'm so thirsty. And there's no water around. There's nothing. They're in the middle of nowhere. And the Baal Shem Tov, he says, do you trust in God that he's going to provide for you? And the guy was like, he thought about it. He had to think about it. And then all of a sudden, yes. And they're walking a little bit more, and all of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, they see this guy carrying 2 buckets of water. Okay? And they go, hey, what are you doing here? Okay, first get the guy to drink. What are you doing here? He says, I don't know what happened. I don't know. My master, my boss, he woke up crazy this morning. Tanya, he lost it. He told me I can't get water from the usual place where I get water from. He told me I had to go to all the way to this other place, Upersdorten, to go ahead and get water from him. He wouldn't have water from here, so he sent me to this place to go fetch water. I have no idea why he did that. He lost it. He's out of his mind. And so the Baal Shem Tov just calmly turns to his student and he says, you see, from the beginning of creation, Hashem already had you in mind and every single thing that you need in mind. And he already pre-programmed it. He pre-programmed to make this guy go crazy today, the boss, to make his servant to go and schlep water, that you can have water in this very spot. Okay? It's already been planned out, if we can only just grasp that, right, and calm down. Okay? But the idea here is we have a nefesh, and the nefesh is connected to the ruach, and the ruach is connected to the neshama, and the neshama is connected to the chaya. That's the living essence of the glass blower before he begins to blow it out. And that's connected to yechida. Yechida is called uniqueness, okay? Unique. Unique, which means our uniqueness. Each one of us is absolutely very unique, thought out in the will of the Creator, being thought out every single moment. Oh, if we would only grasp this in a deep way. Okay? You're always connected. Okay? Always. Right all the way to the highest part of your soul. Now, let's just go a little bit more. Okay? The parallels at human will. Okay, so we have Yud Kei Vav Kei. You have 4 worlds. You have the 5 levels of soul. And now we have the parallels at a human level. Because we do say Yud Kei Vav Kei is the image of God. There's a different way that we understand the image of God. So here you have basically will, mind, thought, speech, and action. Will, of course, we relate to all of these things, right? We relate to a will so high. The mind thinks thoughts, right? The mind actually is just the place where the will goes and enters into. The reservoir, and then there's the actual thought itself, which is more like delineated. And then you'll have speech, and then you'll have action. Sometimes the speech, even though, let's say, we don't necessarily have to put it into words, a speech is still in our minds. And then there's action. And this is why it's called Yud Kei Vav Kei. As we see, Yud, which relates to mind. Okay? First of all, Yud relates will, go to will. Will, which is the deepest place. It's so deep within us and our psyche, relates to what we call the tip of the Yud. The tip. Okay? Yeah, that Kutso Shel Yud is a lot there. Okay? Because that's the beginning of creation. It's the little point. I've spoken about this before. The highest vessel to receive the most light, if I would put a blank page and just put one point in the center of the page, that would be the symbol of the highest vessel receiving the highest light. Why? Because it's only a dot, not like a letter. If you have an aleph or a beit, those are letters. They're also vessels. But the highest vessel is a dot that can receive from everywhere. Okay? Because when we look at a Sefer Torah, we look at the light around the Sefer Torah. Most people focus on the black letters, but there's a whole lot going around the letters. Right? There's a Shita in Gemara and Tosfos and Sanhedrin brings down that there was a tradition to actually have the letters be white. Actually, it was just like an outline of the letters, not fill them in with black like what we have. Okay? The idea here is the light around the letter. So if you have the smallest letter, of course, there's going to be more light around it. And the idea of the dot on a page represents or symbolizes that the vessel can receive from everywhere. There's no limit to where the vessel can receive from. Okay? Like I guess you would call it maybe a magnet in space, maybe? Something that can receive from all sides. It doesn't, listen, this is very big. The symbolism is very great, if you think about it. A lot of people have issues, they have problems. And, of course, it's natural for the mind to go ahead and try to find the solution to the problems. And usually, if somebody comes and suggests them something, well, why don't you try this business? Or why don't you try that? Right? For this, for anything in the world. So what happens? People, I don't think that's a good idea. Right? People will shoot down an idea. I don't think that's a good idea. Right? See, so, and maybe they're not good ideas. The truth is they might not be. But if you are able to receive from all directions, then okay, I'll think about it. At least you'll think about it and not knock it down. So many people come to you with suggestions how to live a happy life or this like this. Are you able to go ahead and just look at it? A person has to be open for the solution of his problems that could come from anywhere. Okay? Usually they think, okay, I got a problem, I call my rich Uncle Bob. He'll get me out of this, right? All right? My Uncle Bob passed away, so don't have that anymore, okay? So the idea of a point in space is the symbol of they can receive from anywhere and any place. So there's no limitation where it's come. Okay, you know why? The Ein Sof. God is unlimited, and he has no limits to where he can bring the solution to my problems from. Okay? So that's you have will, and then you have mind. Mind is compared to, actually, we call that wisdom, or chokhmah. Okay? Mind is, let's say, we call that the yud. The yud is like also a little dot on the. It's a little bigger of a dot than the point of the yud. The yud is a dot, but look at it as like a seed. Look at it as like a seed. The seed doesn't look like much. Remember, you can crack it open. You don't see anything in it. Right? What happens? You'd have to take that seed. You have to put it in soil, and then it rots, and then something new comes from it. Okay? So that seed is like the inner thing in your mind. Suddenly, the spark that goes off, a certain idea. I want to build a house. Okay? Right? So the guy gets an idea to build a house. And very energetic, very enthusiastic, very excited. Okay? And then what happens? What's the next stage of that idea to build a house? Is, okay, how many rooms? You got to fill in the details, right? Details. How many rooms? How many bathrooms? Okay? And that's a big one. Then, garage, stories, details. Backyard, front yard, size, everything. All that is the next part called thought. Yud and Hey go together. Yud and Hey is like mother and father, is like Abba, is like wisdom and Bina and understanding. Understanding because understanding is the element of the brain that takes the seed, like the soil takes a seed, and breaks it open and says, okay, how are we going to go ahead and play this out? How many rooms? Okay? So that's the difference between Yud and Hey. And that's mind and thought. So the person has an idea. And then speech. Either he communicates that idea. And then finally, there's action, which is the final Hey. Now this is why in the name of God, you'll have the second letter in the name of God and the last letter in the name of God, the same letter. Because, I'm going to tell you this, the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, okay, really means this, in a nutshell, thought manifest. Okay? Thought manifest. What do I mean by thought? Thought, what do you think in your brain? And then manifest, expressed. Or maybe thought expressed. Okay? In other words, Yud and Hey are all in the mind. Vav and Hey, the last letters of God's name, excuse me, are in the world of expression. Okay? We are very much, we work like that, whether we know it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not, we work like that all the time. We think thoughts, I want to do this, and then what happens? We go and do it, right? That's how we function in this world. That is the image of God that we're made in. We think a thought, and then work on how to get it out there. Hopefully, we're focused. Otherwise, we get a little dispersed, and we lose it. But the idea of the image of God means just like that. And that's why this name is such a powerful name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. It is the highest name possible. This is the name we're not allowed to say it as it is written. Because why? First of all, one reason is we don't have the exact tradition how to say it. We lost the tradition. Even though you'll see it in the sidders, you'll see it in the prayer books, right, with vowels under it. Some guy came and asked me, he says, how do you pronounce that? I said, we don't pronounce that, right? We don't try to pronounce it, even though those witnesses who ride bicycles, right, they try to pronounce it, right, knocking on your door with little pamphlets, they're trying to, they don't know how to say it. They don't have anything. They're clueless. Because I'll tell you, I'll give you the secret. Are you ready for the secret? This is the secret. And you'll see it in your prayer books, okay? The secret that's not a secret, okay? This is what is done, okay? This is a Hebrew word that means world. Olam. Olam. We spoke about that last week. Okay? Now, what they do, okay, is when they want to write, in your prayer books, you'll notice these vowels are under Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, you'll look in your prayer book and you'll see, okay, Yud Kei Vav Kei is written there and it has these vowels. Why these vowels, if we're not supposed to say it? If you have that in your prayer book. You probably have in your prayer book something else like 2 Yuds, okay, which we'll speak about. But if you'll see Yud Kei Vav Kei is spelled out, this is the Yud, right? This is the Yud, this is the Hey, and above the Hey they'll have this vowel. Is because what they do is they superimpose, they took the vowels of this word and put it on those letters. You follow me? Okay? In other words, that's why the letters in your prayer book have these vowels. They took Olam, but sometimes they'll take another word, Elohim, and they'll put the vowels in the Yud Kei Vav Kei like that. They'll do this kind of combination. They do that a lot, okay? So that you're supposed to be thinking something else when you're looking at the word, okay? It's another thought that they're trying to get you to think about, okay? So the idea really is of Yud Kei Vav Kei is, this is the image of God that we're made in, okay? Thought manifests, and this is actually very powerful. But this is also why we can't say, I didn't bring on, one reason why we couldn't say Yud Kei Vav Kei is because, one, we don't have the total tradition, even though it is handed down to certain inner circles. I'm not one of them, okay? And then the other reason is we are not on the level of purity, where if we were to say the name, we would incur severe spiritual damage. The Chavetz Chaim says no one should attempt to say this name. Because if you attempt to say this name thinking you know how to say it, you figured it out and you did all the study and homework, right? It's not appropriate because all of us have what we call a level of defilement, of uncleanliness, as if they come in contact with the dead. In other words, if a person comes in contact with the dead, touches a dead body, so that's called the highest level of tuma possible, of defilement, uncleanliness. And then, of course, what happens is that we touch each other, so then it's basically the entire world is just, we're all there, okay, basically. Once one touches another person, we all have it, okay? Rabbi Yaakov, can you try to get the AC working in here? Because we're steaming. Okay, thanks. All right, keep the door open then. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to leave the door open.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So here I have, here on the far right column, basically a description at the human level. The decision of the architect who has to know what he wants to build before he starts planning. Comprehensive, going below, corresponding to the mind, the comprehensive plan and design of the project, like abstract technical symbols on paper. It's still abstract. Thought is translate all the inclusive symbols into details of physical reality, thinking how to implement the general plan at the building site. Speech is transmitting instructions to workers on task and action, things get done, and the architect's entire purpose is finally realized. Going back, don't forget I said, why are there 2 Heys, 2 letters in God's name that are the same letter? So the idea really here is the Yud and Hey are the thoughts, right? In other words, you have an idea, build a house. And then what happens in your mind, you have a picture of that house. That's the Hey. That's the Hey. And then the Vav is basically drawing it down through action and expression. Till finally, the last final Hey, you're actually sitting in that house. Thought to manifestation. Thought to expression. Okay? The issue that we have is we have to focus. Problem is because we get diffused. Okay? So, here, let's go on. Okay, here's another way to express Yud Kei Vav Kei that happens to be a practical application. I love this, how R.A. Kaplan brings this down. I've seen it in other places. The Arizal actually brings this down. The name of God himself, which expresses that ultimate giving, also alludes to the 5 worlds. Page 20. The name of God himself, which expresses that ultimate giving, also alludes to the 5 worlds. This name is known as the Tetragrammaton, the name of the 4 letters. It refers to God's causal relationship with his creation. It signifies that he is the source of all being and existence and that his essence permeates all of creation. And the best way to understand it is through the mystery of charity. Look at this. The yud, that represents the coin. Picture it like this, okay? You're walking down the street and you see a person who's asking for money, a beggar, okay? Now, he didn't ask you yet. You didn't approach him yet. You see him, okay? Because that's important. The letter yud, that's the coin in your hand. Hopefully you have a coin in your hand. If not, in your pocket. But anyways, it's a coin. Look, it's one little coin. Like a yud. Like a yud. And then you have your hand, which represents the hey. 5 fingers. The numerical value of hey is 5. So here, obviously, in your hand, you have a yud and a hey in your hand. And then what happens is then you are extending it to the poor person. And then your arm is the vav. And then as you put it into the poor person's hand, he receives the coin. And therefore, what? The hand of the beggar who receives the coin. The coin expresses itself, which is the greatest good that God gives. It's a really amazing, actually it's a real meditation. A lot of things, actions that we do in the most subtlest of ways, and this is how our forefathers behaved. This is how the Kabbalists actually behaved. They took the simplest, this is a tremendous mitzvah, but they took it on a much deeper level. They understood it as something very significant, and when they put it together with their mind and their intentions, the expression and the effect that would have in the worlds, they understood that they are a micro of a macro. We are small entities, but we have powerful ramifications in the entire universe. So the simple act here, done with this kind of meditative practice of Yud Kei Vav Kei, but it only works according to the Ari, is if he didn't ask you first. If he asked you first, if the guy comes to you first, then the order is not the same. Then you have Hey with Yud, Hey, and Vav. It's not the Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's not the right order, right? The idea really here is you have to be proactive. You have to beat him to it before he asks you. Okay? That's the real chesed. You have to foresee it and give them first. Okay? Each one of these letters also represents the 5 worlds as they align with the manifestation of thought to actuality. Right? The letter Yud is the first novel idea to express, yet only a seed. The letter Hey, like I said before, is expanding the original idea. And this is understood using the analogy of one who wants to build a house that we spoke about. Okay? Go to the next page because we have to talk about this. We only have so many minutes. Physical proximity versus spiritual proximity. Okay? If I would ask you, what does the Torah want? What's the whole goal of the entire Torah? It's one thing only. It's called devekut in Hebrew, which means bind yourself to him. Attach. Are you attached to God? Okay? You have to be proactive and attach yourself to God. The entire Torah is about only that. That's it. Right? Connection. What does God want from you? Connection. What do we have to do? Connect. Okay? So the question is, how do you connect yourself to God? So we have to talk about 2 things called physical proximity versus spiritual proximity. Closeness. We can understand physical closeness. Physical closeness is when bodies are together physically. Understood? Quite simple. How do we understand spiritual proximity? Okay? So here, spiritual proximity is what we call equal in form or likeness of form. To the degree they like and dislike the same things, so is the degree we would say that the 2 entities are attached and clinging to each other. This is a huge principle. The example is the famous adage of birds of a feather flock together. Or we say that just as oil mixed with water and you shake it up, what happens? The oil will always float to the surface. Okay? What does this have to do with this? Okay. Receiving versus giving are opposite forms. You'd think they should go together quite nicely, but they don't. There's no relationship there. Ask a parent who has a teenage son who only calls him when he needs something. Okay? Not much of a relationship. Okay? When he needs the keys to the car or money, that's the only time he'll talk to you. Otherwise, he'll be in his room on his iPhone. Okay? That's not a relationship. Okay? As long as a man is a mere receiver, he stands at the opposite pole away from God. who is the giver. Because God is only involved in giving. He doesn't know receiving. Don't forget, we asked this before. When God made this, Tzimtzum, contraction, right? What was the essence of what he made that's not part of himself? What did God make that it wasn't? If God is everything, right? Including every single thing in the universe, totally. What did he make that's not part of him that became the universe?
Desire to receive?
Yeah, that's it. Will to receive. So that everything is made up of, everything in this entire universe and galaxies and everything is will to receive. Because he has nothing to do with will to receive. He is only will to give. That's it. He doesn't know anything about receiving. So what happens? As long as man is a mere receiver, he stands at the opposite pole away from God, who is the giver. Since we know the whole purpose of creation is for God to bestow pleasure, God doesn't receive from anyone. He only knows giving. Whom is he going to receive from? Hence we say that God's form, so to speak, is only involved in giving. Man, who is the opposite, born to be the most selfish, self-centered, egotistical beast. Okay? Not really, a little extreme. Kids are angels. But you know something? Kids are such angels. But you know something? There's that innate thing that, are you going to share your lollipop? No, I'm not going to share my ice cream. No, right? I'll give you a bicycle. Okay, you can have one lick. Okay, so the idea here is, okay. Then they're willing to if there's a trade-off, then they're willing to let go of something. But otherwise, usually the innate nature of a child is completely selfish, meant to be. Child screaming, needs a diaper change, doesn't care what you need to do to take care of yourself. If you just come home and the child's there and needs a drink, it needs a drink now, and it will scream until it gets that drink now. It doesn't care if you have to go to the bathroom or you need to, whatever. You need to let me put down my thing. No, I want X now. Okay? It's meant to be. We all come from that because why? We all have our little pekkalas. You remember what pekkalas are? Our little bag of treats. Okay? We all have an element of that self-absorbed will. Okay? Some people call it ego or selfishness. To some degree, okay, it's meant to be. We're meant to have it. Because what we have to do is we have to take that and transform it. You got a pekkala. We're here for free will. We're here to work on ourselves to develop our relationship, our connection to God. We have to transform our selfish nature into being giving natures. Okay? Into being giving individuals. When we transform that, to the degree that we transform it, will be our degree of attachment to God. Because birds of a feather flock together. God's involved in giving. You're involved in giving. To the degree that you're involved in giving will be the level of your attachment to God, because we say that is what we call spiritual proximity. For example, let's say, take two guys, right? Take, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven likes the Astros, hot dogs, and the Rolling Stones. Okay? And let's say Shimon likes Astros, hot dogs, and the Rolling Stones. They like the same things. So they are always going to hang out together because they like the same things. And if they actually have a list of things that they hate, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that, and then basically they hate and like the same things, will be the degree of their spiritual attachment to each other. To the degree that they like and hate the same things. The same way it works with us and God. Yes, there's things that God hates. I'm sorry to say. Okay? So, sinura. Ohavei Hashem sinura. Those who love God hate evil. Okay? And what is evil? If I would give you the raw formula of evil is just, I want this now. Okay? If you strip everything out, it's just, I want this pleasure now. Okay? All evil basically comes down to that. In other words, I don't care what I have to do to get it. Rob banks, kill people. I want this pleasure now. Okay? And it manifests as that. But that's where it starts with will to receive. When it's big and it grows too big, where you don't care about other people, that's what we call evil. Okay? So thus the entire creation of all the worlds is to give space for man to be the creator of his own good and the master of his or her own completeness. And this is done through the practice of Torah and mitzvot. Baruch Hashem, we have the modern cure, right? Performance of the mitzvot, of Torah and the mitzvot, for the intention of resembling the Creator and thereby enjoy the ultimate ecstasy of what? Hanging out with God. Hanging out with He is. Okay? Now, just to go back to the mashal, and then we'll stop for questions. The idea that I did bring down about the levels of soul, very interesting. We have a yechida, you have a chaya, you have a neshama, you have a ruach, and you have a nefesh. Okay? And the idea here is that I talk about the dressing, that God has layers of concealment. And I brought you that parable at the beginning. What was that about? What is it about? The barriers, okay, really are not there. If you have to ask yourself this question and leave with this, okay? My dad, he puts this forward all the time. Is there any place where the completeness of God ends and you begin? Is there any place where the goodness of God, the abundance of God ends and you begin? We say that tzimtzum is lav kepshuto, that tzimtzum is not exact. It is not literal. Okay? Why we are here seemingly having this kind of existence thing, we haven't figured it out yet. But one thing we do know, God is all there is. And there is no place where the completeness of God ends and we begin. So you got to just, don't get caught up in the tzimtzum, folks. Okay? Don't get caught up in the contraction. Okay? Stick with the kav, stick with the line, and know the walls, right? The animals, the jewels thrown at the people. What do we really want? Well, that's what we're supposed to connect with. We're supposed to be connecting to God. That's the ultimate point. Okay, we'll stop here. Questions, anyone?
I have page 20.